we're doing the Big 7 Weekend Digest. And that's where I go through and look at all the stories that we have covered in Tennessee from a conservative perspective, and I pick the top 7. Now, I can't dig into every single tiny detail. However, if you want to learn more about these articles, you can go to TennesseeConservativeNews.com, and if you'll click that little search icon in the top right-hand corner of the website, you can quickly and easily access these by a keyword search, and I think that would help you out. So we're going to get right into the stories. There's been a lot happening, and it's kind of hard, in my opinion, to pick the top stories. I mean, sometimes it's, in my opinion, it's kind of difficult to know, like, well, one story matter more than another. But we try to look at engagement on social media, click-throughs, and these are the stories that really got the attention of conservatives in Tennessee over the last week. First story, big headline in my humble opinion, Tennessee judge shuts down illegal immigration center in Chattanooga. Huge story. Why? Because we broke the story about this illegal immigration center, and I hope I don't lose you. We've got a heck of a frog strangler going on outside right now, and the lights are flickering. So if I lose you, that's why. And so the Tennessee Administrative Law Judge Philip Hillard has ruled to support the state's decision to revoke the license of the Baptiste Group, which, you know, to me, these groups that do this, these companies that take federal money to essentially traffic and place children, I think they're terrible organizations. I think the nonprofits that get in cahoots with them to support illegal immigration, I don't think they're much better. And so they agreed that the Baptiste Group, which was operating the shelter of illegal alien minors in Chattanooga, should be shut down, and I agree and support that decision. By the way, if you are watching this right now, give me a shout out in the comments section. Tell me where you're from. Are you up in Tri-Cities, or are you in Maryville? Are you in Wootwell? Or where are you from? Put that in the comments section. I always like to hear about that. And if you got questions, I'll even try to answer some of them at the end. A lot of them I won't know about, but that's okay. So that's a big story. And the reason that they shut this shelter down is because, number one, I think a lot of the pressure was being placed. They had to form this illegal immigration study committee, which I know that none of the legislators on the Senate or the House are probably very happy about. And there's just a lot of scrutiny now on Republicans at the state and local level to stop this stuff. And, you know, Governor Lee is the one that authorized this center where the molestation took place of this minor child, and where they had kids escaping and going back to their home country of Guatemala. So you just wonder, why was this center ever authorized by a Republican? Further, and this is just a question I have about these illegal immigration centers in general, if you try to adopt a child in Tennessee, it's like 20, 30 grand. You got to wait forever. You got to go through all this paperwork. But they will take a kid that just comes across the border illegally, and in 72 hours, they can magically place them with a relative or some sort of sponsor. Roger Trent, he's here behind the enemy lines in Baltimore, where murdering is a way of life for them Obama thugs. Roger, thank you for tuning in, buddy. We still got a lot of work to do here. We've got a lot of opposition from chambers of commerce, NFIB, a lot of rhino Republicans that are going to want to continue to make Tennessee hospitable for illegal immigration, but we can't let them do it. And hopefully in the upcoming legislative session will help. So here's another related story, and I'll finish this one. Hillard stated that the Baptiste Group failed to demonstrate that they have eliminated the potential for future safety issues of minors who are being kept there, and cited the recent allegations of sexual battery that occurred there. The judge made his decision this week following the initial hearing on July 7th that was closed to the public and the media. I don't know why, but it was. All right, here's another story related to this. Tennessee spends nearly $4 million per year. $4 million per year to educate unaccompanied alien minors. Crystal Karsner, that's a difficult one. Karsner, Executive Director of the Tennessee General Assembly's Fiscal Review Committee, presented her cost estimates. Researchers that the State Joint Committee on Refugee Issues saying that 8,800 unaccompanied minors have come to live in the state since fiscal year 2015. Only 8,800? Okay, I'm not buying it. I don't think you'd ever see. I don't think you'd see what you see if we only had 8,800, but I'll take you at your word. I don't know how those numbers were derived at. Carstner said Tennessee has spent nearly $60 million over the last 15 years educating children who entered the state as unaccompanied minors. Now, here's where it kind of gets, in my opinion, a little dicey. Or subjective, right? You call them unaccompanied minors, but I'm sure at some point they magically get a wand waved over them, and then if they get placed somewhere or with a family, then now they're no longer unaccompanied, and so now they've just become a student. Because I know we've got more than 8,800 illegal alien children in Tennessee schools. I just know it. Carstner estimated Tennessee spent an average of $3.9 million annually on education for those minors, and the highest estimated year cost was $13.9 million. The state also spent $85,000 annually on TennCare health care benefits for those minors. If they're spending $85,000 on TennCare for the handful that they know, there's no telling how much they're spending with everyone else. Why chambers of commerce? Tina Wolf asked. Chambers of commerce like cheap labor. They love cheap labor. Our Chamber of Commerce here in Chattanooga even pushes critical race theory, and they've got corporate sponsors that help them, Tina, so that's one of the reasons. So if you got any questions, or if you want to just tell me where you're listening from, click in the chat box there, and I'll try to talk to you if I can. Next story. TBI, this is a sad story. This is a very sad story. TBI arrests 18 men, including pastor and National Guardsman, in human trafficking operation. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation arrested and charged 18 men as part of a human trafficking investigation in Spring Hill. The group included a man listed as a youth pastor of a church in Centerville and as Tennessee National Guardsman. According to the release from the TBI, oh man, we just had some blinking here. I may have lost you, and if I did, I apologize. Something just shut down. If I'm struck by lightning, I apologize. And so the group included a man listed as a youth pastor and church in Centerville. According to the release from the TBI, their human trafficking unit worked with the Spring Hill Police Department, the FBI, Homeland Security, and Office of the District Attorney, General Brent Cooper, and they launched a 2-day undercover operation on July 8th. The operation resulted in the arrest of 18 men who were then booked in the Murray County Jail. It is so crazy to me that we have issues where basically we've got sex slavery going on in the United States of America and in Tennessee, right under the noses of all these leaders, sex slavery. And instead of focusing on things that matter, instead of lifting these kids up out of poverty, instead of teaching them to read and write and to be financially responsible, instead of teaching them biblical principles that would allow them to live a better life, what do? We set them in a room and we try to teach them to hate themselves for the color of their skin. We've got so many problems in our state. I don't know why we continue to major on the minors. I really don't. Drives me nuts. Next big story. Top vaccine official fired after health department pushed vaccines on minors, and they did. Why in the world you would risk your child's health to give them something for a disease that they're not going to be affected by is beyond me. I don't understand this. I know people that are signing their kids up as little as 6, 7 years old for these trials. These are not lab rats. These are not guinea pigs. These are children of God, and they need to leave them alone. And they need to quit pushing this stuff. On Monday, Tennessee government fired one of its top vaccination officials from the Tennessee Department of Health. Good damn riddance. After controversy surrounding the department's campaign to push COVID-19 vaccines on minors. Dr. Michelle Fiscus was employed as the medical director in charge of immunization programs and vaccine preventable diseases. Fiscus was terminated on Monday. I think there's one more up there that needs to go. Fiscus claims that the firing comes as a way to appease legislators who are angry about the recent TDOH advertisements that focused on vaccinations for teenagers. And this is all well and good, but I'm sorry, this stuff comes down from the top. We really need stronger leadership in the executive branch and the legislature. This stuff should not go on for months before somebody gets fired. And I don't know what's going on here lately. I don't know. It's like people are asleep at the wheel. In a related story, the Tennessee Department of Health's immunization program for children continues. Well, she was fired because of this program. Why in the world would the Tennessee Department of Health say Wednesday that firing a fiscus and discontinuing the adolescent vaccine outreach for other vaccines is in no way halted the immunization for children program? I don't know. I don't know, guys. We're living in the upside down. Next story. Tennessee farmer wins injunction against USDA and loan forgiveness dispute. U.S. District Attorney Judge S. Thomas Anderson ruled in favor of a Tennessee farmer granting an injunction. Now, if anybody knows this Tennessee farmer, if you're watching this, if you know the fella, I'd love to have him on. We interviewed Tony, which we'll talk about here in a second, on this same issue, except for restaurateurs. And I think he's up in Harriman, Jake's Bar and Grill. Go by there, get a big steak, get a flag and a veil. You'll love it. Against the U.S. Department of Agriculture and its efforts to grant federal loan forgiveness to only non-whites. Only non-whites. That's crazy. Along with other cases, Anderson took the case of Tennessee restaurant owner Antonio Vitolo, into account when issuing his ruling. And I got to interview Antonio, very nice man. It's funny, right? Here we have clear-cut cases of racism, which by textbook definition is when you take someone else and you give them an advantage or you penalize them because of their race. It's just textbook racism. We're not worried about the textbook racism. We're worried about the non-existent racism, like you were born racism, as if you get to choose the parents you're born to or the color of the skin or anything else like that. Russ Hood asks, where did you get the info? Are you talking about the chamber or school system? Thanks. When I'm talking about the critical race theory, we're talking about the Chamber of Commerce. Here in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I'm sure there's some other chambers pushing similar things with corporate backup. When we're talking about illegal immigration, we're also talking about the Chamber of Commerce. Chamber of Commerce has been a big supporter behind the scenes with money and lobbying. Every time a good conservative bill on illegal immigration like E-Verify comes up to be expanded in Tennessee, the Chambers of Commerce and the NFIB and all these corporate globalists get in there and start leaning on our rhinos, and often they capitulate. So that's how that goes. All right, next one. And and it's funny, a man today has to fight with his own government, with this farming situation, racism from the government. Institutional. You talk about institutional racism? Institutional racism. Hey, Brad from Mount Juliet, good to see you there, bud. Glad you're there. Russ, thank you for joining us. Talk about racism. I mean, we're talking about imaginary racism. Here's a clear-cut case of racism, and instead of the government doing what is ethical and moral, it requires a judge to come in. These are wacky times we live in, folks. Federal judge blocks Tennessee transgender bathroom law temporarily. Federal judge Alida A. Traeger, Tennessee's Middle District, placed a temporary block on Tennessee's newly passed transgender bathroom law. The law, which went into effect on July 1st, requires that businesses post signs if they allow transgender individuals to use the restroom of their choice instead of the restroom of their biological gender. Men should not be in little girls' bathrooms. Done. Men should not be in little girls' bathrooms. If you think they should be, if your mind has gotten so depraved and it is so wide open, it's probably empty. Probably empty. This is just, here, on the one hand, we see all this child abuse going on in organizations. We see our country in many ways turning a blind eye to it. And then we try to pass a law that would some common sense laws that would keep that from happening to children. And a judge blocks it. It's amazing. It really is. So, those are your big 7 headlines, cultural, economic headlines that you really need to know about. Now listen, I couldn't get into all the details here. If you want the quotes, if you want all that stuff, you need to go to TennesseeConservativeNews.com and listen. These stories will never see the light of day without our news organization out there fighting, and we need grassroots support And when you go to TennesseeConservativeNews.com, hit that red support button. We'll send you 2 proud Tennessee Conservative bumper stickers. I was so proud. I was driving down the interstate, and I saw one. I was like, whoop, whoop. We're big time now, right? And somebody in front of me going down the road was like, is that mine? And I sped up, and I was like, there we are. And so thank you for putting these on your vehicle, for helping us. And when you give any amount, you get a directory of local officials. So when they're up there doing a bunch of shenanigans, call them, email them, write them. Let them know you're watching, you're paying attention in the committee and subcommittee meetings, and we're not going to let rhinos get in the primary coming up in 2022. And if you get $50 or more, or a recurring contribution, we'll send you this proud Tennessee Conservative tumbler. And if you put Penny Schwinn's educational leadership in here, and if you pray over it with a prayer hanky, and then pour it out, the kids might learn to read, write, and basically have an education. She's a real winner. Glad we got her at the helm. She's doing fantastic work up there. The achievements are just, the achieving is just off the charts there. So, Brad, Russ, I appreciate you being with me. We got a few others here. Share this with your friends, if you will. And there, obviously about 40 or 50 stories we can't cover in the Big 7. So don't miss that stuff. Go back to the website, sort through it, go through the Facebook feed, go through the social media feeds, and help us, okay? And if you hear something, and if it's not a bunch of BS, and if we can verify it, and if it's factually accurate, send us news tips, news at TennesseeConservativeNews.com. I'm Brandon Lewis. I'm going to go down to the beach. Now listen, next week we have a special guest, Marsha Blackburn, who will be coming on to talk about critical race theory and how we can stop it in Tennessee and the nation. She's been very vocal, and Haggerty has as well. It's kind of interesting to me. I'm trying to close here. I'm not doing a very good job of it. It is interesting to me that when we've got issues with illegal immigration and CRT and so many other things in the state, that our federal officials are more outspoken about it than our state and local officials. Yet, our state and local officials have more control over it. They could do something about it. Right now, both Blackburn and Haggerty they're at a disadvantage with just the way the House and the Senate and the executive are set up. It's very hard to get anything through or done, but they're doing more in many cases than our state and local people are. And I applaud it, and hopefully they can give some courage to a lot of our Republicans to be conservative here in the volunteer state. Brandon Lewis here with your Big 7 Weekend Digest from the Tennessee Conservative. Go there and subscribe, TennesseeConservativeNews.com. Do support us, TennesseeConservativeNews.com/support. Love you guys. Have a fantastic weekend. Take care.